وبركاته. Good afternoon. للي با ترجمة بالعربي شيء الباركود هني بس الجلسة بتكون بالإنجليزي. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to our panel discussion. Thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to be here among leading voices, curious minds, as we explore the perspectives on new insights on the Blue Qur'an. It helps us shape our understandings and better understand the remarkable collection of Zayed National Museum. I'm Amar البنا, Associate Curator at the museum. And the piece, the highlight of today's panel is a folio from the 9th to 10th century that originates from Al-Andalus, and helping me here today to digress and then dissect the topic. We've got our colleagues, الإيمان روسلي, our curator at the museum, specialist and expert on Islamic manuscripts and artifacts, and as well Fátima التميمي, our conservation unit head. Of course, allow me to lead with a thank you to Abu Dhabi Art, a heartfelt thank you for joining us along with them, to collaborate with them, for fostering artistic dialogue, for permitting this session take place and have these discussions go around. Of course, us at Zayed National Museum, we are located in the heart of the cultural district, right here in Saadiyat, and we are the National Museum of the UAE. We talk about the rich history, we celebrate that rich history, the story of its people from ancient times to our modern day. And of course, that is not complete without talking about the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founding father of the UAE. And we talk about how his values and examples are found throughout all aspects in our lives, and the actual, let's say, guides that we go with day by day. Of course, through the exhibitions, programs, and public interactions, we explore these origins, we explore these values and how they're integrated in our narrative and our daily lives. So in this session today, inshallah, we're going to focus on, we're going to introduce the significant new findings. We're going to examine the craftsmanship of the actual folio, the process of production. We're looking at the conservation process specifically, more technically, and we're going to highlight how the actual Blue Qur'an folio falls into the narrative of Zayed National Museum and how it is actually related to Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan. So I think that's a very brief introduction. Kicking it off, we'll start with Nur Liman. What is the actual historical importance of the Blue Qur'an, and why is it, let's say, a unique manuscript?
Thank you so much, Amar. The short answer to that question is it is unique, it is important because it's one of its kind, only one in the world. And also it is unique because it looks different from the rest of the Quran manuscripts during that time. But I will walk through how the Quran manuscript in the early 9th century, like 200 years after the revelation looks like, even earlier. So this was the time when paper hasn't reached the Islamic world yet. So the writing material was made of animal skin, treated animal skin, what we understand in the museum terminology as parchment. And also, we see the script is a little different than what we see our Quran Mus'haf today. It is what we call Kufic script. It has no dots, it has no marking to mark the Fatha, Kasra, and Dhamma. So there is no tashkil. And the size varies, depends on the animal skin. So some of the pages, some of the folios are quite big in size, and some are quite small, depends on how many folds that they are folding the parchment. And then we see the parchment color, a little bit of white color, and the ink is in dark brown and close to black ink. And also what comes to us now, today, they comes in detached folios. We haven't seen actually like one complete Mus'haf of the Quran from that period. So now let's see the Blue Qur'an. Why it is called Blue Qur'an? Obviously because the color is blue. So what happened to the parchment when it is, how it reached the deep blue color? Because it's dyed in indigo. So the dyeing process is actually coloring off the surface of the parchment, both front and back, gives this deep blue color. And also, what about the text? This is not written in dark brown on blue. It doesn't quite suitable, I guess. So it's written in gold ink. So the text was made gold all through from the very beginning of the Quran up until the end, including the name of the surah. And then this is how it is unique. And when we talk about the importance of the Blue Qur'an, why is it so important? It is important because it gives the meaning, a new meaning to the ruler, a new Muslim ruler in a new city that they spread from the Arabian Peninsula westward. So, and also it is important because that's the reason why we talk about it today. Yeah.
But I think one of the main, or like the most common questions is how is it related to the narrative of our museum?
Yeah. At the Zayed National Museum, we talk about Islamic religion. We talk about the early period of Islam, how, what are the evidence of Islamic period in the UAE, but we extend it further. We also see, because the Blue Qur'an falls within this period, from the 7th century up until the 11th century. It is not made here, of course, but we talk about how Muslim in the UAE and in around the world preserve the word of Allah. This is the preservation. And also we talk about, because we understand when the Quran was revealed, it was revealed orally, and it was memorized by the Prophet's companions and Muslims around the world until today. But we need a method of other preservation, which is writing it down. So this is our story. And also, this is more closer to the religious aspect. But beyond religious aspect, what we talk about in Zayed National Museum, we talk about connection. We talk about innovation. So connection and innovation between different regions, between different society, and also in different media.
I think with that general significance or understanding its historical and religious importance and significance, we can tackle the other side with Fatima and talking about the conservation process. So what has been done to the actual manuscript in sense of preservation process. Fatima.
أول شيء السلام عليكم. At Zayed National Museum, أخوي عمار, we follow like specific approach in safeguarding the object. So we start with preventive conservation, and then we move to intervention conservation when it's necessary only. So any objects go through a process, starting with condition checking the object, isolate the object, anoxia treatment if needed, and then we'll do like a detailed examination on the object and putting the treatment plan of the object. We follow specific strategy on the environment, how we preserve this object, what is the best environment to preserve this object. And then sometime what's happened with the Blue Qur'an, we go further and we apply the scientific analysis.
And I wanted to ask you more on that. So, looking at the technologies, how has technology played a role in preserving and studying these manuscripts?
So it's a big difference. Like in the past, we usually we relied on visual examination only, and we used very traditional tools. But now with the new technology, it's opened our eyes and how we see this manuscript. Like before, we couldn't like realize that now the studying of the object or how we can see this object could happen in the past. But in Zayed National Museum, we have a very advanced science equipment and tools. It helps us to better understanding the object and better preserving the object itself. I'll show you here a video how the multispectral images, like with different light, like we can see different layers of the object. So here, like our understanding to the object, it's become more deeper.
And I think leading from that, taking it a step further, looking at how technology reshapes, let's say, as time goes on, with that technology being paired with the Blue Qur'an, I think we are preserving the manuscript, but also we're, like Fatma mentioned, we're revealing new layers, and we're dissecting it through the multispectral imaging, high-res imaging, pigment analysis. We're extracting all of these informations. So we're getting the indigo dyed parchment, like you mentioned, the gold leaf Kufic script, the small, minute details that might not be seen to the naked eye. And all of these can be extracted to be used and implemented into the art world, more or less. So taking these specific pigment shades, the script, the proportions of the actual script on the canvas, on the paper, can be integrated into whether it's painting, it's printmaking, photography, light shows, having this back and forth, either going very directly and having a, let's say, a direct relation with the original piece, or going more abstract in trying to expand on each element and how it interacts with the other, let's say, the other elements or other factors that are along with it. So either going for exact proportions, having the mathematical, let's say, proportions of the folio being copied into a larger format, or changing it up completely and mixing the colors, and how we see a lot of abstract works, and we can understand that this piece resembles the Qur'an. For instance, we've got pieces of Jam' al-Hajj where you see scribbles, but it is a direct understanding where we understand this is a page from the Qur'an and these are verses. So this back and forth can be done with pieces like this, where we're slowly understanding and we're slowly expanding through technology. So technology is bridging this gap rather than only preserving these folios. It's keeping those folios alive. They're still resurfacing and being integrated into our daily lives. They're being expressed in new ways for us to hopefully better understand them or even look at them from a different lens, I think. So it becomes a living source of inspiration of this specific folio or many other objects, of course. So I think going back to Nur al-Iman, understanding the discovery processes of the Blue Qur'an, what can you tell us about the scholarly discoveries during this research, during what we were doing?
So I would like to tell a little bit of a short story, how we actually found this, how we see the needs of technology in observing this folio. So when I first look at the folio, you want to show the folio that we are looking at? Okay, so yeah, when I first look at that folio, without any tools, without any equipment, with the naked eyes, and then I see, okay, we have a decorative panel, the gold decorative panel, and then when we look closer, I can see like traces of letters, traces of words, and then it immediately saying, okay, first, the folio is unique because all I see from the very, very early Quran Mus'haf is both sides with writing, not with decoration as big as the one that we have in the Zayed National Museum. When I look closer, and I see traces of writing. And then I bothered Fatima. I said, Fatima, we need to go deeper into this. I mean, use your, super mission to see what's hidden. I was thinking the text was on top of the writing. But when we see under the multispectral imaging, we notice then the text is actually beneath the decoration. So this is the what you call it, initial step of multispectral imaging process that we had at the Zayed National Museum.
Your word, Nur al-Iman, because the multispectral images you can see under the surface. What is under the surface? Here we reveal the text under the decoration of the Blue Qur'an, and we discover there is a text under the decoration.
Yeah, so we reveal that, but that is not the end. That is one step of the high spec of the multispectral imaging. What we need to do next is to analyze this data. Is the goal of the decoration the same as the text? What are the layers? Is it, how many different times spent between both what you called it work? So this is what we're going to do next, and then we might have the next session talking about this. But what I want to talk about, what discovery leads us to. It leads us, for me personally, I think each folio, each Quran manuscript has its own life. And it's not just one life, it has continuous life. So the calligraphers put on the writing on this parchment, and then perhaps mistakes happen because we see traces of mistakes, not only on this particular folio, but other folios where words has been scraped off. This is very, very minor mistake, but to me, perhaps this one actually, because we understand that more than one calligrapher work on the same project. So it could be like two calligraphers copied the same verses. That what we need to do, we need to cover the mistake, and then because we don't want to, waste the parchment, because we understand parchment, indigo, gold, all these materials, they are expensive. So especially during Even yes, yeah, during that era. So I think the decision was made to cover the duplicated texts. But other scholars also looking at this in different eye. They were saying that at some point of time, after the completion of the Blue Qur'an, after the completion of copying the text of the Blue Qur'an, there was a decision made to divide, to make the division into 7 divisions, to make the Quran into 7 divisions, what our religious scholars call manzil. And it happened because the verses from Surah An-Nisa, the one that is covered with this decoration, sits at the end of the first section of the manzil. So this is how other scholars come to the another opinion. But I think this, whatever new discoveries, it actually suggests or invites new interpretation of the folio.
And I think a part of that interpretation is the, let's say, artistic analysis or more of a art historical breakdown of it. We see this, like you mentioned early on, how these colors were used to symbolize something.
Yeah.
These have a reason to be used. The blue has a reason, the gold has a reason. So having the background to be indigo blue, very dark, like, let's say, a sky, a canvas, and then having the gold letters kind of in the middle of it. So it's mixing very earthy tones and colors on a parchment that is vellum, that is, animal skin. It's very earthy with celestial metals. Gold is associated with things shimmering in the sky. So having that mix, having that terrestrial and divine collaboration on a folio that obviously has religious value is made with intention, let's say. Or looking at it slightly more abstractly or in a more artistic way, you have a floating canvas. You don't have lines. The actual letters are the lines. There's deliberate spacing. The geometry of each letter, the actual, getting it incorrect to actually then make sure you cover it and do it properly and do it correctly. You can kind of, as much as there is religious importance, as much as it shows specific status or a reason in actually producing this manuscript, it can also be interpreted and admired as an artwork.
Yes.
Looking at it and understanding how it's valuable. So, and of course, looking at it slightly historically, maybe we can, in this time period, we see this usage of in Andalus, in the Islamic world, with the Byzantine Empire as well, with manuscripts there. So it's manuscripts that are being produced on this side, and then compared to the other manuscripts, it's this trade of understanding, trade of craftsmanship. People are learning from others. People are showing off they're being proud in what in their skills. They're trying to actually clearly show what they can do and to what extent for them to get something even better, and this vice versa, this back and forth. So I think it's always important to take it historically, but also to admire the other aspects of it, to have it interwoven and understand the general practices of people in general. So I think maybe delving deeper into that with Nur Liman and Fatima as well, the actual art and calligraphy of it. What can it contribute to our understanding of the Islamic time period in this time, or maybe you can elaborate more on the symbolism of the gold and blue mix that I mentioned. What do you think?
I agree with your interpretation, Amar. That's super. And also, if I may add to your interpretation, I think if you look at this bifolio of the Blue Qur'an, as if the calligrapher click a button, justify alignment on our Word document, because it's so justified. And with all the calculation, the spaces between the lines is all as if it's calculated. And I would like to invite everyone to remember this is when the period when everything was made by hand. No machine, no computer, no software, with very simple tools. No AI, definitely. Yeah. And when we see the calligraphy, when we see the color, we see that how the makers, including the calligraphers, the illuminators, and also the bookbinders, because we see the traces of stitching on the folio. So definitely Blue Qur'an was bound as a complete mushaf during that time. So we see the precision of, we see the attitude as a craftsman, not only to create a manuscript of this important, but also perhaps we can see that some scholars were suggesting that the calligraphers perhaps also those who were memorize the Quran, because we want to make sure that all verses are copied in accuracy, in a very, very total accuracy. And also, as I mentioned, the Blue Qur'an came to us with this detached folio. It's either single folio or bifolio, like what we have in the Zayed National Museum. We have a lot of questions. Where it was made, when, all these questions, how. We know a little bit more from the experimentation and from the, new technology, the process of making. Our question is still when it was made and where it was made from. And then we go back to the very obvious clue, the blue and the gold color. So what's tradition used blue and gold for their, important documents. So we then, scholars trace to the history of Byzantine, where they have their letters, they have their manuscripts, they have their royal documents, even they have their Bible written in gold and silver on blue parchment. So this is the clue. But why the Umayyad rulers at that time? Because we understand Umayyad capital city was in Damascus, in Syria, moved to Al-Andalus. Why they want to imitate the Byzantine tradition? It speaks very, very loud because they were the new rulers in a new city. They want to link with the tradition of the local, and also they want to tell other rulers, Muslim rulers around them, look, we keep the tradition, we keep Kufic inscriptions, but we give new innovation to it, the blue and the gold.
They're still sticking to their roots, they're
Yes.
not changing their values. And I think moving from a time of no technology to a time with a lot of technology, and how we are incorporating this with a lot of technology. Fatma, if you'll give us an understanding on the understandings and new findings of these technologies, how could they benefit conservation of these objects?
The technology opened the new dimension in understanding art, Islamic art, the calligraphy. In Zayed National Museum, we are using different tools, different equipment, such as the multispectral imaging, the XRF, the high resolution microscope, which show us what is under the surface. So we identified the pigment, the ink, how the calligrapher layer the ink and the pigment on the parchment itself. So with a closer examination, we saw that the here I'll show you in the image. The calligrapher outlined the letter with dark brown red color, and then filled the gaps inside with the gold. So how he produced this this gold? Like what he did, like he crashed the gold leaf until it's been a fine powdery pigment, and then mix it with اللبان العربي, Arabic gum, so to create a thick painting. And then he apply it on the letter itself. So, and then it's burnished to make it more shiny. Here, like these equipment help us to understand how the process of the writing. Also, the technology show us the effect of the old repairs on the parchment itself, and how the old repair was very harsh on the parchment. So collectively with the curator discussion, like we decide to remove the old repair and apply reversible methods on the damages area. So what we did exactly, we used now I'll be more technical. So we used the methyl cellulose on the old repairs to remove it, and then we applied the sturgeon glue on the tears and for the consolidation. Also, on the other hand, like digitization help us to measure the pigment fading on the object itself. So with this, like we are creating our systematic plan on displaying the Blue Qur'an and any sensitive object in our collection. With this technology and the advanced equipment, we create our preservation plan at Zayed National Museum and help us to understand more our collection.
And I think that kind of fully covers our research aspect and our more technical side of us as an institution. But Fatma, if you will continue on the idea of how it aligns closely with our narrative at Zayed National Museum, why the manuscript is in our collection, and what do you hope visitors will take away from this experience? And after Fatma, please, Nur Liman, do share the same question. How do you hope visitors will take away from experiencing the galleries, whether it's the Blue Qur'an or other objects as well?
When any visitor will visit, inshallah, the Zayed National Museum, they will see the beautiful, the result of the long journey for displaying this object. So you are seeing only the object inside the showcase, but there is a long process behind this, behind the displaying of this object. There is like a scientific analysis. There is a conservation treatment. There is a display, the mounting discussion. There is the environment monitoring. Here there is a big team, a huge team behind this process who dedicate themselves to show the beauty of our legacy, of the beauty of our culture, to see it after that in our museum. I hope you can appreciate all this hard work.
Nariman.
I echo Fatma's lengthy process, and then what our visitors will see soon when we open, inshallah, is the ready-made, meaning Fatma has reversed the old repair, and then it's all ready, beautiful for your viewing. So what's next? Blue Qur'an and also other objects in Zayed National Museum, our hope is that it opens to a conversation.
Yes.
It opens to our visitors to see more than the story of all objects. It is not only the story of the past. It is what we interpret, what we see, how we appreciate it today. So in the context of the Blue Qur'an, we talk about Islamic art is not static, it's global. Because we know now the Blue Qur'an was made in Al-Andalus up until today. When the new discovery will come, we will change the provenance of that origin of the Blue Qur'an. But until today, we know it is in Andalus. And the major part of it, the majority of the folios now sit in Kairouan in Tunisia. And we have 5 folios in Zayed National Museum. So it travels, it tells the story about man, text, manuscript, travel as we travel today. So this is not new to us. It's the same thing, you know, the same history. Yeah.
And then I think, more or less, now that we kind of understand both sectors, both factors of the technical and more historical, maybe to wrap up and conclude this session more or less with one last question. So what, and of course this question is for both of you, what role does this continued research play in ensuring that these stories of these masterpieces, whether it's the Blue Qur'an or other objects as well in the collection of the National Museum, stay alive and be relevant for new generations to be better understood, re-examined, and reimagined, more or less? What is that role?
Okay. The role of the Blue Qur'an and also, of course, other objects in the museum or other objects of history is that it's not only we as curators, conservators, and museum practitioners not only preserve them for the visitors to look at. We preserve them so that we engage with the object. And then how we engage with the object is not only from our generation, but generation before us. If I may, Fatima, to show the Chinese Quran. Okay, so this Quran, it's blue and gold. It's just using the same color, but it has a little different in the calligraphy. So this is the Quran made in China, in the 17th century. So meaning like 800, 900 years after the Blue Qur'an, craftsmen and artists of the Muslim world, in this case in Muslims in China, inspired by the Blue Qur'an. So the Blue Qur'an opens so many dialogue. Artists, researchers, curators, even general public engage with it. So, and also we understand here in the UAE, if you ever to visit Farjam Foundation in Abu Dhabi, and also the Sheikh Zayed Mosque Center, Farjam Foundation in Dubai, Sheikh Zayed Mosque Center in Abu Dhabi, there are 2 contemporary works that is inspired by the Blue Qur'an. I think when we go further around the world, we might see, works within is either religious context or the secular context that has come to the meeting point where the Blue Qur'an, the blue and gold, has inspired the artists.
I just want to add, like at Zayed National Museum, the research is not only one-time act. it's ongoing responsibility. So that's why we organize Preserving Our History program, that we educate the people, and we want like a new generation of new Emiratis and foreign people to join us and learn more about conservation, preservation, and how we can preserve our culture, how we can preserve the collection of UAE and the region. So the program itself, it gives you a general idea about the preservation, and then go deeper in the practice of intervention conservation of different materials, and then we'll go to the science analysis and the research behind that, and we end it with the digitization and the using of the new technology, and how we connect all this together to understand the artwork. So I will encourage you to follow us in our Instagram social media, and you will know more about the program, and register with us, inshallah, after the opening.
Thank you both for a very insightful discussion and dissection of the Blue Qur'an. This folio remains as a very fascinating topic every time we bring it up with every research, and hopefully we'll always learn something new about it. Hopefully the research doesn't stop. And it's been a very insightful discussion. Thank you very much. And now if we have time, or if we have any questions for Q&A, please feel free to open this to discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nur al-Iman and Fatima and Ammar. I wanted to ask, what does the evidence tell us about the origin of the Blue Qur'an? Were all the folios made in the same place, or were they made in different regions and then collected and bound in one place? Is there anything that tells us about this?
I think the holes for stitching the folios suggest that it was bound, meaning it was bound during the time it was made. So it was made in Al-Andalus. And also how we know, when we mention about the Byzantine tradition, we have two folios in the Bible called Kava Bible, named after the writer of the Bible. It has two folios of the indigo dyed parchment and written on gold, with gold and also silver. When we see at the measurement of these folios, it has the similar measurement with the Blue Qur'an. So to answer your question, I think it was made in the same workshop, what we call like the royal workshop of the rulers of the time, which means the Umayyad ruler. And it happened to travel, so until it reached us here in Zayed National Museum, Abu Dhabi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fatima, Ammar, and Nur al-Iman, for this insightful discussion. I have a question about the research aspect of it. How much do you, as the museum, relies on existence research, the scholarly work published outside of the museum, and how much does the museum aim to kind of, I wouldn't say enhance, but more of find more findings and kind of keep going with this research of the Blue Qur'an specifically? Is there, do we have a timeline, or is this something that it's ongoing, that's going to keep going, and trying to also find other fragments of this Blue Qur'an in different areas and regions?
Okay. About the timeline, actually, we had quite a long journey for this research and also findings. But it never stops, as I mentioned. I mean, because scholars around the world has talked about the Blue Qur'an over a decade already, about the origin, about the productions. So we at Zayed National Museum, as I mentioned, we are only at the first half of multispectral imaging, where we collect the data. Now is the time for us to analyze this data, what this scientific data means to us, the layman, and then in order for us to understand the history behind it, how can we then make a suggestion whether it was, I mean, particularly about that one folio with decoration, whether it was made during the time of the writing, or it's made like 50 years after that, or it's made, I mean, right after the calligrapher mistakenly copied the verses twice. It's going to be a long journey. Inshallah, after we open, we are going to continue to analyze our data. Hopefully, Fatima, would you like to add on that?
Yeah. Adding to yours, Nur al-Iman, like as a Blue Qur'an, as this manuscript, like we are focusing in different areas. We are focusing in the pigment, and the pigment itself, it's need a project. Ink, it's by itself, it's need a project. The manufacturing of the manuscript is need a project. So it's ongoing. We can't say, like, with research there is no deadline. There is no end of the research. There is always a question. There is always a new discovery. So we can't say there is a timeline to this project.
And I think with that, we'd like to thank you very much for joining our panel discussion. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and learned something. And us three, the museum and the Blue Qur'an, are going to be waiting for you, inshallah, in the museum once we open. Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Thank you.